Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Lubna Siddiqui from Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today I am going to elaborate upon the module Pressure Belts and their Seasonal Variations, which comes under the paper Climatology. First of all, let's discuss what could be your learning outcome of this module. After studying this module, you will be able to define air pressure, define pressure gradient, explain the diurnal and seasonal variations of the air pressure, discuss factors affecting air pressure, establish the relationship of temperature, altitude and moisture with air pressure, explain vertical and horizontal distribution of air pressure belts, give details about the pattern of planetary pressure belts, and describe the pressure belt shifting with changing seasons. Let's now begin with the introduction. Atmosphere is an envelope of gases circling the earth. It is mainly made of colorless and odorless gases of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and many more. About these gases you have already studied in the lesson Structure, Composition and Importance of Atmosphere. This atmosphere is traced up to many hundreds of kilometers above the Earth's surface. Technically, pressure can be defined as the force exerted by the atmosphere at a given place and time. Generally, it is expressed in millibar, that is MB. The atmospheric pressure is determined by the mass of a column of air lying above a certain level surface. The increase or decrease in pressure of the air is determined by various factors. The pressure belts have developed in a sequential manner over the globe, but their existence is again determined by the seasons. In this module, we will study about the atmospheric pressure belts and their seasonal variations. Now let's understand what is air pressure. Atmospheric pressure is the force of dry air exerted on a particular place or surface. The column of dry air lying above that place surface is responsible to pressurize as it has its own mass. Since the air above is exerting pressure at the lower level, it is also known as barometric pressure. It is known so because it is first measured by barometer. The atmospheric pressure keeps on declining very rapidly with increasing height from the sea or earth's surface. The rapid decline in pressure with increasing height is due to reduction in the height of the air column. In the lower atmosphere, or air near the sea or earth's surface is denser due to compression by air lying above. But with increasing height, the intermolecular space increases and thus lesser pressure is observed. The most common unit to measure the atmospheric pressure is millibar, that is MB, as mentioned before. Measurement of air pressure. The first atmospheric pressure measuring instrument was invented by E. Torricelli in 1643. In Torricelli's barometer, mercury was used. If an 84 centimeters tube filled with mercury is taken and inverted into a mercury pot without allowing the air to enter, the mercury will fall from the top. The fall will be different at different altitude from sea level, which is represented in figure 1. At sea level, the level would be up to 76 centimeter, that is 760 millimeter from the pot's mercury level. It is equivalent to 29.92 inches. 1 inch of mercury pressure is equivalent to about 33.8639 MB at sea level. If the air pressure is calculated at the sea level at this rate, it yields to 1013.25 MB. This recording of air pressure is said to be the average sea level atmospheric pressure. This standard air pressure or normal air pressure is recorded at 45 degree latitude at 15 degrees Celsius temperature. The air pressure varies from about 982 MB to 1033 MB over the Earth's surface. The pressure of air applied at sea level is equal to 1034 gram, that is 1.034 kg on an area of just 1 square centimeter. The highest sea level air pressure so far has been recorded at Irkutsk in Siberia on 14th January 1893. It was found to be 1075.2 MB of the level. The lowest sea level air pressure was recorded on 24 September 1958 at Ida in the Montana Island in eastern part of North Pacific Ocean. It was found to be 877 MB in an eye of a very destructive typhoon. The mercury barometer mentioned above is not very convenient to handle and carry. Therefore, for measuring air pressure, aneroid barometer is used. This barometer is easy to carry as it is smaller in size, light in weight, and has less coverage space. It is fixed in a metallic frame. The aneroid barometer is made up of a special high-grade elastic material within which partial void or vacuum space is created. When the atmospheric pressure changes, this change is reflected in the elastic material by compression or swelling. When the height is lower, the air column is greater and hence higher air pressure is recorded. In this case, the flexible elastic material is compressed and its result is reflected by the dial of the barometer. In this way, we take the reading. When we go to the higher elevation with the aneroid barometer, the air column is reduced. A smaller column exerts lesser pressure, and due to this reason, the flexible or elastic material gets swollen. Its effect is again recorded on the dial of the instrument by the needle. Apart from the barometer, the figure 2 shows the thermometer, that is temperature measurement, as well as barometer, that is relative humidity measurement. The air pressure is shown by isobar on the maps. Isobar is drawn on the map by joining all the places which have same air pressure. Therefore, an isobar shows the same air pressure value wherever it goes. The air pressure is different in different seasons over the same geographical area. The isobar map of the Indian subcontinent can be seen from the figure 3. From this figure, it is quite evident that the pattern of isobars or air pressure changes. Now comes to pressure gradient. The atmospheric pressure gradient refers to the change in the pressure per unit distance between two places along a line and isobar map of any area. The maximum pressure gradient is observed along a line perpendicular to the isobar. It is more when the isobars are closely spaced, but when it is widely spaced, the pressure gradient is lesser, as shown in figure 4. Pressure gradient can be computed by getting the difference between the isobaric values of two places as well as the distance between the same. Thus, the isobaric difference divided by the distance gives the pressure gradient. The larger numerator, that is isobaric value, divided by a smaller denominator, that is distance, shows greater or strong gradient. When the case is reverse, the pressure gradient is gentle or weak. Suppose you get the air pressure at place 1 to be 1010 MB and at another place it is 1000 MB. The difference between them is 10 MB. If the distance between the same two places is 100 km, the air pressure gradient would be 10 MB per 100 km. In other words, it is 1 MB per 10 km. Later on, we will study that the greater pressure gradient generates greater wind speed, while the lesser air pressure gradient is responsible for producing lesser wind speed. Now we will talk about variation in the atmospheric pressure. The atmospheric pressure varies from place to place and from time to time. On the basis of time, diennial and seasonal variations can be observed. First one is diennial variation. The periodic variation change is observed on daily basis. Two highs and two lows of air pressure is seen each day. The high point occurs at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. while the low pressure occurs at 4 p.m. and 4 a.m. as shown in figure 5. This is also called as semi-diurnal observation in pressure variation. It is because of difference of 12 hours between them. The mean daily changes in the air pressure can be found out by calculating the average hourly observed pressure for a long time. The temporary effect of atmospheric disturbance is free from the mean value of the daily pressure. Insulation, heating, cooling and radiation are the factors for the diurnal changes in the air pressure. Now, seasonal or annual variation. The amount of insolation received in a particular region varies from one season to another season. Because of this variation, seasonal or annual variation in the atmospheric pressure is found. However, in high latitude and polar region, variation in the pressure is not that great in comparison to tropical region. In the tropical region, the annual variation in the atmospheric pressure is larger than the other part of the world. Generally, high pressure is observed during the cold season and low pressure is observed in warm season. Now let's talk about factors affecting air pressure. There are three important factors affecting the air pressure. They are temperature of the air, altitude and moisture. Briefly known as time, that is TAM, temperature, that is T, altitude, that is A, and moisture, that is M. Let us discuss their relationship with air pressure in brief. First, we will talk about the relationship between air temperature and air pressure. The relationship between air pressure and air temperature is inversely correlated. Inverse relation shows that the increase in one variable will cause the other to fall and vice versa. When temperature of air is increased, it causes the volume of air to expand. Expansion of air is caused by increase in intermolecular space. Air has its own mass. Once the mass remains the same but the volume is increased, it leads to decrease in density. Lower dense air has tendency to rise. Rising air upward tend to create a partial or temporary vacuum. Therefore, the area where the temperature is higher, the air pressure is observed to be lower as shown in figure 6. Now let's talk about the relationship between air temperature and air pressure. When the temperature of a certain column of air decreases, the pressure is increased. Lowering of temperature of the air is witnessed as the contraction of that air. Since the mass of the air remains the same, the density of the air is increased. Increased density causes to attract the air from the surrounding columns. It leads to accumulate greater mass of air where the low temperature is witnessed. Accumulation of more mass of air exerts greater pressure. Therefore, higher air pressure is caused due to fall in the air temperature. Now let's talk about the relationship between altitude and air pressure. Both altitude and air pressure are inversely correlated. Increase in height causes the air pressure to fall, whereas the fall in latitude is reflected in the increase in air pressure. As mentioned in the beginning of this module, air pressure is the force exerted by the air parcel lying above a certain level surface. When there is increase in altitude, the air parcel lying above an elevated surface has a smaller column of air. A smaller column has a smaller mass of air. Therefore, at the elevated surface, the pressure is less. It is the other way round. When the altitude is less at lower elevation, a bigger column of air lays. Bigger column has greater mass of air. Greater mass of air exerts greater pressure. Therefore, at lower surface or at sea level, the air pressure is more It is also a fact that the air or gas is easily compressible. Greater column of air compresses the air at the lower level. Hence, the density of the air is greater at lower elevation. This causes to increase the air pressure at lower surface or lower level or surface, as shown in figure 7a and 7b. Okay, let's talk about relationship between moisture and air pressure. Moisture in the atmosphere is the water in the form of vapor. Addition of water vapor in the atmosphere causes the air pressure to fall. You must have observed that the water vapor is going upward while cooking something in the kitchen. It is going upward because it has less density in comparison to the surrounding air. A smaller volume of water can generate large volume of water vapor. It is happening due to expanding intermolecular space of water when it turns into vapor. This is reflected in lessening of density. Lesser density of vapor mixed in the air lead to lesser mass of the air column. That is why greater amount of vapor is the cause of lowering in air pressure. The vapor holding capacity of the air is directly and positively correlated with the temperature of the air. When there is high temperature, the water vapor can be held by air is large in comparison to the lower temperature. You must have observed that the damp towel you spread after taking bath is quickly dried up in the summer in comparison to winter. It is not the same case in rainy season. When sufficient amount of water vapor is already available in the air, its further water or vapor retaining capacity is reduced. Hot air in general is dry and air has greater capacity to retain moisture in itself. It is also called as hungry air. Moisture in the air is temperature dependent. Already available amount percent of vapor in the air is also a determining factor. It is said that higher the air temperature, higher is the capacity of the air to hold vapor and vice versa. This statement is completely in congruence with the figure B. There are several methods of measuring humidity about which you will be reading later in the modules related to it. One of them is relative humidity. It is expressed in percent. The percentage is calculated based on the amount of water vapor available at a certain temperature in a certain volume of air and the maximum amount of water vapor that could be held at the same temperature in the same volume of air. When the vapor is available to its fullest capacity, the relative humidity is 100%. This level of vapor is known as dew point. The relative humidity can be calculated on the basis of the following formula. Okay, now we'll talk about distribution of atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure varies from place to place and season to season. Its distribution over the globe is not uniform. Variation is seen in both perspectives, vertical and horizontal. The first one is vertical distribution of atmospheric pressure. As mentioned earlier, the air is compressible. Therefore, its density is greater in lower layers as compared to the upper layers of the atmosphere. Thus, the atmospheric pressure decreases with increasing height. Second one is the vertical distribution of atmosphere. The vertical distribution of atmosphere is influenced by temperature, water vapors and altitude. Since all these factors vary significant, the rate of decrease in the air pressure with increasing altitude also varies. In the higher altitude, atmosphere becomes thin and intermolecular space is more. However, on an average, vertically pressure decreases by 34 MB per 300 meters of the altitude in the atmosphere. This rate is confined only in the lower level of the troposphere. With increase in height, the decreasing rate in atmospheric pressure is reduced very drastically. It means slight increase in elevation from the sea level, greater change in atmospheric pressure is seen. But at higher altitude, the greater increase in elevation shows lower change in pressure. These statements are very vivid from the table 1. Now let's discuss about the distribution of atmospheric pressure. The distribution of atmospheric pressure on the earth is explained across the latitude. This is considered as horizontal distribution of atmospheric pressure. The distribution of pressure belts is very distinct and classifiable. Based on the characteristics of different belts, they are grouped into 4. They are: number 1, equatorial low pressure belt; number 2, subtropical high pressure belt; number 3, subpolar low pressure belt; and number 4, polar high pressure belt. Last 3 have 2 cases of each northern and southern hemisphere. In fact, the first one has also 2 cases, but both north and south cases of equatorial low forms a single belt. That is why it is called as 1. Equatorial low pressure belt. This belt extends from 10 degree north to 10 degree south latitude. It is a thermally induced belt because here the temperature remains very high throughout the year due to the vertical sun's rays. Consequently, the air is warmed up. Warm air has lower density. Being lighter, it is uplifted and calm condition prevails. Since there is almost an absence of horizontal movement of wind, the calm condition is termed as doldrum. The winds converging from both hemispheres, high pressure belts, results into a zone of convergence. It is known as Intertropical Convergence Zone, that is ITCZ. Strong convectional rainfall occurs at the late afternoon, and this results adiabatic cooling at this time of highest diurnal temperature. The different air pressure belts can be observed from the figure 9. The risen air from the equatorial low reaches to the upper troposphere and dragged towards poles. By reaching in the tropics, air descends from 200 to 350 latitude in both the hemispheres. It is caused by cooling of the air. Cool air is heavier and hence it subsides. Subsidence of air in the tropics causes to additional air accumulation. Therefore, high pressure belt is created here. Second one is subtropical high pressure belts. These belts are extended from 20 degree to 35 degree latitudes in both the hemisphere. These belts are situated over Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Since there is subsidence of air from the upper troposphere in this zone, a high pressure belt is developed here. From this high pressure belt, the wind moves equatorward to fill the temporarily created vacuum or gap produced by rising air at the low pressure zone. Hence, an atmospheric cell is created by rising air at equator, moving up, getting drifted towards pole, getting subsided due to cooling, becoming heavier, climbing down at subtropical high, and finally moving towards equator to fill the gap created by rising air. This cell, that is circular motion, is known as Hadley cell. Due to subsiding dry air, most of the deserts are found in these pressure belts, but in the western margin of the continents. A calm and feeble wind is created in this region, which is known as horse latitude. In early day, sailing vessel with cargo of horses was very difficult under such calm conditions. The horses were thrown into the sea to reduce the load of the ship. Third is subpolar low pressure belts. These belts are found between 50 degree to 70 degree latitudes in both the hemispheres. These belts are induced due to ascent of air as a result of convergence of wind coming from subtropical high pressure belts, that is westerlies, and polar high pressure belts, that is easterlies. The air moving from subtropical high to subpolar low rises above, gets cooled, diverted towards equatorward, and descends at subtropical high, makes a cell, that is circulation motion, known as Farrell's cell, as shown in figure 10. During winter season, because of high contrast of temperature between land and sea, this belt is broken into two low pressure centers in northern hemisphere, one in the vicinity of the Aleutian Island and other between Iceland and Greenland. During the summer season, the variation is less. Therefore, more regular low pressure belt develops. Last one, that is 4, polar high pressure belts. High pressure prevails over both the polar regions due to excessive cold condition. The cold climatic condition itself is caused by slanting sun's rays at the poles. In these pressure zones, thermal factor is more important than dynamic factor. The air coming from polar region rises up at the subpolar low, finally pushed towards pole and descends at the polar high. This also makes a cell known as polar cell, as shown in figure 10. Now let's talk about factors controlling pressure belt system. There are two main factors controlling the pressure belt system over the globe. One is thermal factor and another is dynamic. The first one is thermal factor. As mentioned before, equatorial region receive intense solar energy throughout the year. Polar regions are extremely cold throughout the year due to less effective and inclined solar rays. More solar energy in the equatorial region causes the air to expand and thus low air pressure is created. On the other hand, at poles, due to extreme cold conditions, the air is very cold and hence high air pressure is observed. Therefore, the creation of equatorial low and polar highs are caused by thermal factor. That is why they are called as thermally induced pressure belts. The second one is dynamic factor. The equatorial low as well as polar highs are explained by the thermal factors. But subtropical highs and subpolar lows are not coming into the line of thermal explanation. Their description can be made only through dynamic angle. The warm air uplifted from the equatorial low is pushed towards pole and due to cooling it subsides over tropics. It is considered as a dynamic factor of the development of subtropical highs. In the same way, subsided air of the tropics causes the high pressure. Due to this, wind blows from the subtropical highs to equatorial low as well as towards pole. Since pole has thermally induced high pressure, wind blows from there as well. Both winds meet in the subpolar low around 50 to 70 degree latitudes in both the hemispheres. Therefore, subpolar lows also have dynamic origin. Now let's talk about changing seasons and pressure belts. The Earth's axis is inclined by 66 degree 30 minutes from the horizontal plane. On this inclined axis, it is revolving around the Sun. Due to this reason, the orbit around the Sun is elliptical in shape. We know it very well that the Sun's rays are vertical on equator on 21st March and 22nd September. This situation is known as equinox. Equinox means the day and night are equal throughout the globe. The wind coming from both the hemispheres converges at equator. It is intertropical convergence zone, that is ITCZ. After 21 March, the northern hemisphere starts tilting towards the sun. By every passing day, northward departure of the sun becomes more and more apparent. Vertical sun rays in the northern hemisphere is marked by increasing energy. This energy heats the areas or air. Therefore, ITCZ migrates towards north along the thermal equator. Since the ITCZ is temperature induced low pressure, as we already discussed before, the migration of ITCZ is marked by the shifting of all pressure belts northward. Though the maximum northward departure of sun is seen by 22 June, the effective maximum average energy received in the northern hemisphere is observed in July. The northward maximum departure of ITCZ is seen up to 25 degrees from equator as shown in figure 11. Land is getting heated much quickly as well as greater temperature is recorded there, but the same is not with water body or oceans. Greater effective energy is accumulated over the land. ITCZ is also have the tendency to depart more over the land. Look at the figure 11. Over the huge landmass of Africa and Asia, ITCZ has departed the most. It is not the same with the case of Americas. In South America, the landmass is smaller to the north of equator. Greater water body is seen. The thermal equator is not going northward. Therefore, ITCZ has also migrated at the minimum. Look at the figure 11. Study the given figure 12. It is showing average air pressure and wind pattern for the month of July. Watch the position of high pressure and low pressure shown on this map. Also compare with the previous illustration showing the idealized pressure belts in figure 10. You will find that not only the ITCZ has shifted northward, but entire pressure belts and wind pattern have shifted simultaneously. After 22 June, the retreat is seen and sun again shines vertically over the equator by 22 September. Further onward, the southern hemisphere is inclined towards the sun. The same case is repeated in the case of southern hemisphere, what it has been discussed above. By 21 December, sun shines vertically over the tropics of Capricorn. After this, it starts northward migration and reached over the equator again by 21st March. In brief, ITCZ shifts towards south as the sun energy is effective. As was the case in northern hemisphere, it is turning southward maximum on the bigger land mass. Over the sea, its turn is less as shown in figure 13. You can study the map given in the figure 13. This figure shows clearly about the shifting of the ITCZ as well as pressure belts and wind pattern. You may even compare the map of January as shown in figure 13 with map of July as shown in figure 12. The apparent change in the position of pressure belts can very well be observed. Now let's talk about the relationship between pressure belts and winds. Pressure belts and winds are directly related. We have dealt the pressure gradient previously in this module. In that context, it was mentioned that the pressure gradient is steep when the isobars are closely spaced and less when they are placed widely. The pressure gradient reflects the intensity of the winds. You will be studying about the winds and related phenomena in another module in detail. But here it would not be wise to deal in detail. You have already studied the above figures 12 and 13. In brief, the high pressure belts exhibits additional amount of available air in comparison to the low air pressure belts. Therefore, the air used to blow from the belt of addition to the belt of shortage. In other words, the winds are blowing from high air pressure to the low air pressure belts. The winds are blowing over the rotating earth. The paths of the winds are not straight but are in a curvilinear. It happens due to Coriolis effects. The Coriolis effects are caused due to rotation of the earth. The blowing of the winds in the northern hemisphere is counterclockwise, while in the southern hemisphere it is clockwise. The details about it will be given in the respective module. Now let's summarize. Air has its own mass. Any object with mass exerts pressure over the resting surface. The resting surface could be anywhere. It may be at the bottom of that mass or somewhere in itself. Greater mass have greater pressure, whereas less mass will have less pressure. Therefore, the pressure is highest at the bottom, intermediary in between, and the lowest at the top. Based on this principle, the maximum air pressure is observed at the lowest level of the earth's surface. Bearing a few spots which is below the sea level, in general, it is believed that the sea level air pressure is the highest. The density of the mass of the air is dependent upon the temperature and water vapor as well as apart from the altitude. Both temperature and water vapor have inverse correlation with the air pressure. Therefore, increase in temperature and vapor cause the air pressure to fall because both make the air lighter and